Hi, welcome back to Follet, the video book. Today's snippet, the third part of chapter 11, is not nearly as explicit as the previous snippet, but still it is not safe for work or children. Okay? Got that? Okay. I know you will take this into consideration. Okay, here we go. If you're ready, we'll begin. Rocky began to fade from Follett's sight. The meadow that was the setting for their lovemaking began to turn to mist. Follett knew that Rocky saw him fading too. Then Follett was looking at the porch again, and Rocky was still stroking the cat. Her eyes fluttered and opened. Wow, she breathed. Wow. Yep, Shirako, you're going straight to hell. And she lazily let the tips of her fingers of her right hand brush across her left breast, bringing her nipple to a slow hardening. Follett turned and walked back down the road. After about 15 minutes, he saw the caddy parked under the big old tree. Mary was sitting in the bucket seat with her eyes closed, the radio playing softly. What a day for a daydream. What a day for a daydreaming boy. And I'm lost in a daydream, dreaming about my bundle of joy. Follett opened the driver's door and slid in. Mary opened her eyes and stared deeply into Follett's. Good day at work, Follett? Different. I'll tell you about it when we stop for the night, but now I'm starved. Okay then. Food, James. Yes, Miss Daisy. Follett made a 3-point turn that turned into a 6, or it might have been an 8-point turn. When he reached the main road again, he turned left and headed north. 5 miles to Reliance, a left and then a right to cross the Hiwassee River, and then straight ahead for 20 beautiful winding mountain miles to Tellico Plains. The road T-boned, and Follett turned right, heading for the Cherahalla Skyway. Some people referred to the Skyway as the Dragon's Tail's little sister, but Follett just wanted to enjoy the mountains instead of having to concentrate on avoiding the parade of crotch rockets and not running off the road and falling down a mountain before coming to a painful rest in the arms of a tree. As they neared the Skyway, Follett saw a little restaurant, the cafe. On the left, he pulled in, and after a quick, intense kiss, the two left the car and walked hand in hand into the cafe. When Follett saw the waitress coming to their table, he did a double take. They were in Tellico Plains, not Pigeon Forge. Follett nudged Mary's foot with his under the table. There's our waitress in a Dolly Parton wig, he said. I know it, Follett. Ain't she cool? That's the kind I dig, Follett told her. The waitress asked them, what can I do you folks for? Mary did not take the bait. Thought half a minute and said, I'd love a piece of chess pie if you've got it. Honey, we've got classic chess pie, lemon chess pie, and chocolate pecan chess pie, all with big old spoonful of whipped cream and a handful of berries tossed on top. The chocolate pecan sounds wonderful. And a cup of coffee, please. Make that too, Follett said. The waitress smiled, turned and walked to place their order, her hips swaying with a y'all come hither now silent command. Follett laughed and reached for Mary's hand and squeezed it. I want to hear all about it, Follett, she said, her eyes sparkling, and just the beginning of a smile pushing up the corners of her sweet mouth. Tonight, I'll tell you about it all tonight, when the world is full of light of the moon all over the place, Follett grinned. The waitress returned with their pie and coffee. Anything else? Mary held the waitress's eyes for a second or two, smiled and said, no, ma'am, we're doing fine for now, thank you. The waitress smiled, looked at them both and said, I'll leave the check. Y'all come back now, and went back to serve her other customers. Follett wolfed down his pie. Worked up an appetite. Tonight, Mary, tonight, Follett said as Mary reached over and wiped a spot of whipped cream from the side of his mouth, and then licked her finger. Delicious, Mary said, looking deeply into Follett's eyes. Where to now, baby? One of the finest little roads on earth, Mary. We'll take the Cherahalla Skyway over the mountains and into North Carolina, and then look for a place to lay our weary heads. Mary smiled and nodded, never taking her gaze from Follett's eyes. They finished their coffee, paid the check, and got back into the caddy. The 2-lane blacktop rose into the mountains, curving and turning and twisting, the mountain's face on one side of the road and a steep drop-off into a rocky valley on the other. At times, the asphalt seemed to twirl around on itself again and again until suddenly, after a switch and a double back and a heart-stopping marvel of mountain and valley and trees, ridges repeating into the foggy distance presented itself. It was difficult for Follett to concentrate on keeping the caddy on the road as each new prospect revealed itself in mighty splendor. These were old mountains. Their sleeping grandeur whispered to Follett, Shokongi, the the Cherokees called this place the Land of the Blue Mist, and told of how after the Great Flood, the father of all buzzards flew to earth to find a home for the animals. By the time he reached Cherokee country, he was so tired that he fell and his wings stuck into the ground. Valleys formed where his wings hit the earth, and when he shook the mud off his wings, the mud that he flew off created mountains where it fell. When the Skyway ended, Follet turned right toward Robbinsville, and then left toward Almond, and then followed the road toward the crossing of the Tuckasegee River around Whittier. He spotted a little 50s motel, the Ride Inn, lit by lots of garish neon. Follet parked, walked into the little office, and asked for a room with the biggest bed. When he and Meri opened the door to their room, they found orange carpeting, avocado walls, and mustard-colored lamps on 2 pressboard bedside tables flanking a monumental mesa of a mattress resting on a truly gargantuan bed covered with a burgundy velveteen spread shot through with dizzying swirls of metallic buttercup yellow whirls. Follet laughed at the discordant decorating. He said to Meri, "I'll be right back," and walked into the bathroom. When he came out, Meri said in a commanding voice, "Get over here." She stood across the room in front of the bed. She wore nothing. She rubbed her fingers up her thigh until they touched her hairy bush. He couldn't take his eyes away from her fingers pushing through her curly hair to tease the puffy flesh beneath. "Kiss me," Meri told Follet. They stood in front of each other but did not touch. Follet moved his head toward Meri's and her lips neared his. When their lips finally touched, light as a feather, it was as if an electric shock surged through him. He could feel in her kiss how much she had missed him, but he could also feel in the kiss that he never left her. He was as much a part of her as the blood that coursed through her heart and the electricity that charged through her synapses. She smiled at his attention and said, "Take off your boots, jeans, and shirt." He knelt to untie the laces of his boots and then stood to pull them off and let them fall to the floor. He unbuttoned and unzipped his jeans, let them fall to the floor, and stepped out of them. He pulled his black t-shirt over his head. She walked over to him, and when he moved to her, she slapped his bicep with the stinging leather. "Don't move," she hissed. She came closer and reached out to touch him and then rub his hardening cock. She moved closer and leaned forward to kiss his chest, opening her mouth to take his nipple between her teeth and then suck him into her past her lips. He gasped, and she removed her mouth from him, stepping back and looking him up and down. He slipped his hands under the waistband of his boxers to slide them off. "Yes," she whispered, "then turn around." He turned away from her and stood still, waiting. He closed his eyes and immediately smelled the heady mixture of her perfume and the musk from between her legs. He closed his eyes to immerse himself in her scent. He smelled something almost oriental. First there was something fresh like lavender and vanilla. The aroma changed and seemed spicy like cinnamon or cloves. Then Follet smelled something like fresh-cut wood, cedar, and sandalwood, and then something musky again. Not the musk from Meri's pussy. It was different and complementary. Amber, or those little white flowers that looked like sparklers. Garden angelica. Meri could tell that her perfume was affecting Follet. "Musk rovagere," she said, "poured in a bottle." And then he felt the heat from her body, so close, and then the pressure of hard nipples pressing against his ribs. He luxuriated in that scent and warmth and felt soft, wet lips caressing the skin on his shoulder blades. And then, as her hands grabbed his triceps, her teeth closed on the skin of his upper back, tighter, tighter, the pressure building to a place where the pleasure of her bite began to be pain. Follet felt her soft, warm hands turn him to face her. Meri turned around and walked to the bed, hopped onto the bouncy mattress, spun and landed on her back, legs spread, her wet slits surrounded by the wonderful wild bush of pubic hair. She shifted and lifted one leg, putting her foot on the edge of the bed. She ran her fingers down her skin, thigh to bent knee to calf, to grab her ankle, and then spread her fingers to stroke the tops of her foot to her toes. "Come closer," she whispered. And he walked closer until he was about a foot away from the bed. "Kneel down in front of me." He knelt and reached to touch his cock. Follet knew nothing more than that he wanted to be deep inside Meri. His cock was crazy hard, the tip bright red and beginning to throb. "Now use your mouth," she fairly purred, and he moved his head toward to follow her command. He touched his nose to her wet slit and began at the bottom of her cunt, moving toward her clit. As his head moved up, he let his tongue stick out of his mouth to lick the wetness from her puffy lips. He licked her in long, slow strokes, softly and relaxed, moving his tongue to touch all of the little folds of skin that surrounded her hole like a meaty necklace. He let the aroma of her pungent cunt go to his head, dizzying him as he lost himself in the adoration of her. His tongue explored her until Meri began to make small, soft noises, and then he moved his mouth to the mouth of her opening. He slid his tongue just inside her and pulled out of her, letting his lips and tongue move and push and rub. He felt the run of her fingers of one hand through his hair, and then, like a small electric shock, he felt the slap of her other hand on his shoulder. She laughed softly, and he renewed his kisses, now concentrating on softly sucking her pussy lips as his mouth moved toward her clit, that bulging nub of flesh almost vibrating with lust. "Oh, yes, Meri," he whispered. She had thrown her head back and was glorying in the sensation. Follet knew only one thing, that he had to be inside her. He placed his hands on her hips and guided himself into her. Meri wrapped her legs around his waist and her arms around his shoulders and pulled him to her. Follet nuzzled his face into her neck and pushed into Meri. He thrust deeply into her, pushing hard to fill her with him. She pushed her hips into him to take him deeper and deeper. He pulled away just a little to push further inside her again. The two lovers lost themselves in their search. As he came, she cried out. As he took his mouth from her neck, he saw the beautiful round bruise he had given her. She would carry that reminder of him with her for a while. They fucked again. And when they had come again, they made love another time, and then they held each other, marveling at the sweetness of their touching. They lay, Follet's head at Meri's hips, and Meri's soft lips leisurely covering Follet's penis with tiny kisses. And Meri sang softly to Follet, "I'm an alligator. I'm a mama, papa, come for you. I'm the space invader. I'll be rock and rollin' bitch for you. Keep your mouth shut. You're squawking like a pink monkey bird. And I'm busting up my brains for the words. Keep your electric eye on me, babe. Put your ray gun to my head. Press your space face close to mine, love. Freak out in a moon-age daydream. Oh, yeah." Then she said softly, "Follet, you know that you are my soul lover, my messiah. You will save me and save the world from disaster, you know." And she moved to kiss his cock again and again. Follet was concentrating on tracing mystical symbols on Meri's pubic hair, taking time out now and then to kiss her thighs and hips and abdomen and belly. Follet softly told Meri, "Bowie understood, but Prince is my divine teacher, the perfect avatar." And he sang quietly to her, "I'll see you tonight in all my dreams, all my dreams. My spirit's flight in all my dreams, all my dreams. I'll teach you tonight, 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 in all my dreams, all my dreams. You'll be so surprised, surprised, surprised at things you'll see, all my dreams. Welcome. This is where I live. This is where I dream my dreams. Tonight we'll make love until the world stops turning." They did not go to sleep for a very long time.